This is my own personal yard and it's looking better than ever. I want to give you 5 tips in this video that make common sense, explain them to you in a simple, easy to understand manner so that you can have a great looking yard, or at least help your yard reach its potential. Let's get started. Today's video is sponsored by Graham Spray Equipment. I have owned and operated 3 lawn care businesses, and with my weed control and fertilization business, I use Graham Spray Equipment. This is my 400-gallon split tank. If you need a spray rig for your business, go to grahamse.com or give those guys a call. First thing I want to mention is common sense herbicides. So I run a weed control and fertilization business. I have a lot of herbicides, a lot of different kinds, and I understand that some of them work in some situations and not in others. When I say common sense, I would use an illustration like this. You ever maybe live with somebody in your house and they think it gets a little bit too hot in the house, so they slam the thermostat down to 58 degrees, or they get a little bit too cold so they put it up to 85, and they just make extreme measures. I think people do that with their lawns. They end up with a couple of weeds in their lawn. They say, oh, we got to overreact. Maybe I need to put this on and this on and this on and this on. Instead of just common sense, let's calm down. Let's understand the weed. Let me give you an example. If I had Poa annua in my lawn and it's during May, and some people still have Poa annua in their lawn, but it's turning brown and it looks ugly because it's turning brown, it's already gone to seed, and it just doesn't look good. Now, the overreaction might be, I need to go buy some, I need to spray this Poa annua out of my yard, it's going crazy. Or, I mean, I'm in Alabama, it gets warmer here, you know, sooner than if you live up north, but in my mind, I'm like, it's gonna be dead soon from the heat, and if you'll just mow it, it probably is not gonna come back anytime soon. So in that situation, your options are go buy a several $100 bottle of a revolver or something like that to go spray your yard and get the Poa out, or just mow the grass and it's gonna be gone soon. Now, I'm not making an excuse for Poa annua. I think we wanna try to control weeds like that. But what I'm saying is, let's use common sense herbicides and not just overreact, slamming the thermostat from 1 degree to another, trying to play catch up. Let's understand our weeds. And a lot of that is knowing which weeds are cool season weeds, which weeds are warm season weeds, which ones are grassy weeds, sedges, broadleaf weeds. Is this a weed that's easy to kill with just almost any herbicide will knock it out, or do I need a specialty product to knock it out? And I have a lot of videos on here that teach you how to do this kind of things, but in a general principle, I want to get my pre-emergence out before the weeds germinate. So you got your cool season weeds. Again, I'm gonna use my Alabama time zone here as far as where we live with the weather. You may have to adjust it where you're from. But here in Alabama, I want to get that pre-emergent out in February, January, February, because oftentimes crabgrass and other warm season weeds are germinating late February on into March. So I want to get the pre-emergent out before then. In the fall, I want to put it out in September, or at least by early to mid-October, because that's when those cool season weeds are germinating, and I want to get it out and water it in before that. And I'm typically going to mix in a post-emergent with my pre-emergent because there's already weeds in the yard. Maybe some of them have already germinated. Hopefully that post-emergent is going to knock out the weeds. Just doing those 2 applications is going to make a big difference instead of you just going out there chasing every weed in your yard and just spraying it with random products that you have. Another example, you have stuff like nut sedge in the lawn. If I have nut sedge, I need to use a sedge product like Pro Sedge, like Certainty, like Sedge Hammer, like Solero. All those will be effective on nut sedge. And you don't overreact and say, why do I have nut sedge in my yard? What am I gonna do about this? Let me go out there and start pulling it up by hand. No, you get a sedge product. Understand it's a difficult to control weed, but with the right product, you can suppress it. The second tip I want to give you is this product right here. Now, this is not going to be for everybody, but if you're looking for a great lawn, this is a product that I would recommend. This is called Podium, and what this is, as you can see here on the thing, Plant Growth Regulator, oftentimes abbreviated PGR. What does this do? Well, when you spray this on the lawn that's actively growing, what it typically does, may I understand it, is it's going to take the energy that that plant is using, the grass in this situation, and instead of allowing it to grow vertically, as in your grass growing taller, it helps it grow a little more horizontally and deeper roots. So what does that mean in layman's terms? Less mowing grass for you. In my experience is basically cut your mowing down in half. Now sometimes people might use it just around the edges where they don't want to have to use a weed eater or string trimmer as much. But for me, I have a big yard with a lot of Bermuda grass. When it starts growing actively, so I would say June, July, August, September, then I'm using a product like this. I apply it about once a month. You can get this under other names. I can put a link in the description with a product called T-Nex that I think is the same active ingredient. But it has on there the label, how much to use for your lawn. So I'm gonna apply this to my Bermuda grass when it's actively growing, and it's gonna greatly reduce the amount of mowing. Now why is that important? Because sometimes to keep your lawn looking nice, it takes frequent mowing. Without using a growth regulator, you're gonna have to mow your grass a lot. Now this is something that golf courses use, and people that are out real mowing their grass, a lot of them are using a product like this to keep the grass low and tight where they don't have to mow it as often. All right, the third thing we want to talk about is the mowing. I want to show you how I mow my grass. And you say, Jason, I know how to mow the grass. I'm just going to show you the pattern I use often to mow lawns that I like to do, and then give you some thoughts on mowing grass, because I've actually found that for my customers' lawns, as I take care of hundreds of lawns for my customers, typically the ones that look the best have better mowing habits than the ones that don't look this. And I would say that is sometimes a bigger factor than watering or fertilizer or herbicide, things like that. They're very important, no doubt, but I might do all those things the same. But why would one yard respond better than the others? A lot of times it has to do with the homeowner's mowing habits. So there's my lawn, and here's what I do. Let me just give you like a sample pattern, and let's talk about just frequency and stuff like that. This is Bermuda grass, so this is gonna vary depending on what kind of grass you have. But what I typically do on this yard is I'll start cutting it in March, okay? So I might cut it one time in March, and my goal in March is to get the Bermuda grass as low as possible. And my mower only goes down to 1.5 inches, so I set it on 1.5 inches, and I run over the lawn. Now when I'm doing that, mostly I'm just getting rid of the dormant Bermuda grass. It's kind of a nasty job a little bit. And what I'm doing at that point is I'm allowing the sunlight to get down to the roots to help this grass green up faster. I find that in the springtime, people that mow their grass earlier, this is more so with our warm season lawns, then they have a better chance of their grass greening up faster. Now I understand with those with cool season grasses, your grass is green all the time, and it's not as big of a factor for that situation. All right, as we get into April, my goal is to keep it mowed as short as possible. Now that's just my preference on Bermuda grass. You can let it be a little bit longer, but I'm trying to keep it at 1.5 inches. And typically I can do that fairly easily, only mowing it every 1.5 weeks, because the grass is really not growing that fast. I can maybe even go every 2 weeks. But as we get into May, it has to switch over. For me to keep it 1.5 inches, I probably have to switch over and start mowing it about every week in May, and through June, July, August, when it really gets to growing, I may have to go even more frequently than a week without the help of the growth regulator, which we've already mentioned. So I'm gonna mow it in a pattern like this. You see this? So I might come out here and just make a perimeter pass, okay, around the property. And one of the things that's important about that is if you make that perimeter pass, especially mowing in the morning, if you come out onto your driveway with a big 0-turn mower to make your turn and you got wet grass all over your tires, sometimes it'll leave a nasty green stain. Now that might not matter as much if you're on a push mower, but for those with a big 0-turn mower, you make that perimeter pass, and then what I like to do is I might go this way 1 week, that way 1 week, an angle 1 week, another angle another week, whatever choice you make. But let's just say we're going this way this time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go make a straight line, hopefully straight as I can, and I'm pushing the clippings out to the side, and then I'm going to turn around and come back and push the clippings out to this side, and then I'm going to come around and go this way again and that side, and then this way and that side, and I'm going to do that the whole time. And what I'm doing by that is, one, I am re-mulching the clippings every time I run over it. Now think about if you did it this way. Think of it there and back, there, back, there, back. What are you doing? For a lot of situations, you're leaving a row of clippings every single time. And as the grass gets thick, and if you don't have a great way to deal with those clippings, then you gotta go back there and fix all that nasty grass clippings over your yard. Now that might mean just raising the deck on your mower and dispersing them, or getting a blower, but you don't want to be out there with a rake raking up all these clippings. So as I push them to the outside on both sides, I'm still making straight lines, but I'm remulching those clippings every time. And worst case scenario, when I get done, I've got 2 lines of clippings that I have to clean up. I can use that same exact pattern going diagonal or going vertical or going whichever way I want to go. I say vertical, it's all obviously not driving up and down into the sky, but you get the point. To me, that just makes common sense on how to mow the grass. And again, the rule of thumb is you don't want to take more than 1/3 of the blade of grass off at a time. So where I might cut my Bermuda grass 1.5 inches, if I had a St. Augustine lawn, maybe I'm cutting it at 3.5 inches. Maybe if you have fescue or ryegrass, you might be cutting it 4 inches. I don't know, you know, but you don't want to have it grow up to 5 inches and cut it down to 2 inches. That's not good. It's going to put stress on the lawn. And yes, we want to have sharp lawnmower blades so we're not tearing the grass, but we're actually getting a nice clean cut. Because when you tear it, it does leave a little damaged tip on the lawn. It's going to take away some of the green color and take some time to recover. All right, how about a word on watering the grass? What we typically recommend to people here in my area is, hey, water your grass 1 time a week early in the morning, just during the warm weather. We don't turn it on in January, okay? But say starting in April, maybe even May probably is fine, and run it through September, and run it 1 day a week at, let's say, 30 minutes per zone, and get a good soaking down the roots. I would much prefer that versus watering 3 or 4 times a week for 10 minutes per zone. Now, if you got seasonal flowers that need water more often, okay, I understand that. But just to keep your lawn wet regularly is not good. It can lead to more weed problems and more fungus problems. Now, watering in the evenings also, if you water in the evening, think about it. You got the water that's going to sit on the lawn all through the night, causing fungus problems. We get a common fungus here for our grasses. It's called dollar spot. And a lot of times, if you have a really bad dollar spot breakout, you'll see that they're watering at night, or we just had excessive rain and they got a dollar spot breakout. Now, I understand with some people with cool season grasses and going through the stress of the summer, you may need to water more often than that. But for our warm season grasses, that deep soaking once a week is going to be more effective, get the water down the roots versus multiple shallow waterings. And let me just say this, overall principle too, I've come to realize this year for a lot of grass types is the turf health. If the turf is nice and healthy, it's just going to reduce your need for herbicides and things like that. I'm gonna give you an example. Some of the things I've been seeing lately is our centipede yards. We have centipede in our area. We got really cold this winter. We got some really beat up centipede yards that look thin and not doing too well. What I've noticed is the ones that were properly manicured in the previous year that looked healthy, green, were mowed short, mowed frequently, they were able to handle the harsh winter we had and have come back fine the next year. But the ones that were mowed a little bit high, maybe just not looking too good going into the winter, then you have a hard winter, they're not doing so good the following spring. So overall, practicing these things I'm talking about can help your lawn, help you choke out weeds because you got a nice healthy turf, and overall help you if you end up with a drought or a cold winter. It can help your lawn survive those things as well. All right, last thing I'm going to talk about is fertilizer. I'm just going to show you some of the fertilizer I'm using on lawns now. And in my yard, you see here where I fertilize, I actually put a lot of fertilizer on it because I was trying to make it really grow in this year. And I can even see a little inconsistency where I didn't make the perfectly even application, where it's slightly darker in some areas than others. My mistake on that. But let me show you the fertilizer, give you some thoughts on that, so that you'll know what to do for your lawn. All right, I've got 2 different bags of fertilizer in the back of my truck right now. This one, if you can read upside down, is a 3807. Over here, I've got an 1819 blend. So let's just take this, and I've shared this on other videos, but the 38 is your nitrogen content. So it's 38% nitrogen in this 50-pound bag. I buy my products from a company called Harold's. If I take that first number, 38, and divide by 2, any number, but we're working with a nitrogen right now. If I take that first number, divide by 2, 38 divided by 2 is 19. That means there's 19 pounds of nitrogen in this bag. All right, so let's say I use that bag and I cover a 10,000 square foot yard. How much nitrogen did I just put out? I just put out 1.9 pounds of nitrogen for every 1,000 square feet. Now, it may take a little bit of research on your part, a quick Google search to say, how much nitrogen does so-and-so type of grass need for the year? And then Another thing you want to think about is, am I putting out a quick release fertilizer or a slow release? So this is a polymer coated fertilizer that's going to release slowly over the course of months. So I can actually put this out before it's really ready for the fertilizer to be put out, honestly, for the grass to use it, because it doesn't start releasing the nutrients nearly as much until the weather starts warming up. Let's just say I put it out in May at 1.9 pounds per 1,000 square feet. So I use this bag to cover 10,000 square feet. Well, that's going to be a pretty good rate for a Bermuda zoysia lawn to feed it and keep it green, or even a centipede lawn. On a centipede lawn, I might only do that one time for the whole year. Now for me, what I'm using on my centipede and St. Augustine's is this 1819 blend. Now that's only got 18% nitrogen, so there's only 9 pounds of nitrogen in that whole bag. So again, to achieve the same amount of nitrogen, I'm gonna actually have to use more than double of that than I would this to get the same amount of nitrogen on the lawn. So sometimes people just think, well, I'll just go buy some fertilizer and throw it out. If it's a quick release fertilizer, it may only give you results for a few weeks versus a slow release fertilizer that could last for a few months or even many months, depending on the rate that you put it out at. And some fertilizer is going to have quick release fertilizer and slow release fertilizer built in there together. Again, that's just a general understanding, just to let you know that fertilizer is not all the same. On a Bermuda yard, I could put significantly more fertilizer on the grass as I'm willing to mow it more than would be necessary on a centipede lawn. I think the rule of thumb typically on centipedes is not to put more than 2 pounds per 1,000 square feet for the calendar year. So I'm going to use this lower nitrogen fertilizer, put it out twice per year, last couple of months, and do it at a rate where I'm staying under 2 pounds for the calendar year. On the Bermuda zoysias, I can go a higher rate. I'm gonna use a higher nitrogen fertilizer and apply it 2 times a year. Again, I could do it 1 time a year if I wanted to go with a really heavy rate to make it last longer, twice a year to give me that dark color. If you wanna mow your grass a lot and you want a lot of fertilizer and deep green Bermuda lawn, then you can put significantly more than 2 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet to give it that dark green color. Again, are you willing to mow it, or are you gonna have to break out the growth regulator to keep it from going crazy? Lawn care is frustrating, but sometimes the results can be rewarding. I'm really happy the way my lawn's looking this year, and I'm hoping some of these tips that I've given you, not overreacting, not just going out there just throwing random products on your yard hoping for the best, but understanding what's going on and how to use the products at your disposal. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. I've got tons of videos on here. I've been on YouTube for a long time. Also wanted to mention the Lawn Care Life Conference, 2024 Lawn Care Life Conference. This will be my 4th conference to put on. I paired up with my friend Paul Jameson. Got a lot of special guests coming. You can check out the information over at lawncarelife.com. There's a link for conference. Give you the idea of some of the speakers. That's going to be February 23rd and 24th of 2024 near Birmingham, Alabama. If you want to get in weed control and fertilization like me, also go to lawncarelife.com. There's a lot of resources over there, including the Weed Control and Fertilization Academy, price and charge, things like that. Thanks for watching. I'm Jason Creel. We'll see you guys in the next video.